Hey, Carolyn, how are you doing today?
Hi, Nan. How are you? I'm doing great.
I'm doing terrific. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful day here in Costa Rica. It looks like we're going to get a little storm. So let's do our podcast. I'm excited to talk to you about trainer's mind. And for those people who are viewing or listening to this, I do want to bring up why we decided to do this particular podcast, which is based on a blog that one of our star students, Hannah Francis, wrote and posted on our Facebook group, which was called Attention on Connection. And I remember when we read it, we were both so inspired to talk about trainer's mind. And it really is the reason that you wrote the blog that you wrote that we are posting on our blog site today. So let's talk about that. One of the things that, you always say to us as students is stay focused on the connection, not on the performance. So talk to us about that, Carolyn.
Yes. Well, the thing that happens is when we are working with our horses and the horses are going really, really well, and we want to either ask the horse to perform something he already knows how to do or something that we're going to teach him how to do, something new, and everything is just right there working for us. What happens is we forget to stay in the same consciousness when things were not going well. So when things are not going well, we tend to be more present to the moment, more aware of where that connection is, and more aware of finding that entry point of connection that works for us. But once we have the horse going really perfectly well, we shift over there in trainer's mind, and we forget to find that place that connects with that horse so he can perform more easily. And so trainer's mind looks like that you're asking a horse too soon, not aware of how he's feeling. You're not setting the horse up to be able to do what he does because you expect it.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the things that happens for a lot of students or just a lot of trainers in general is, you work with your horse today and you have this amazing performance happening. And so somewhere inside of you, you just think that you're there, the horse got it. And the next day you go out and you say, oops, nothing is going right today. What happened? So when we get more in trainer's mind, because we're like, well, we had it yesterday. So let's do it. And then we completely fall out on being in neutral and being there connected to our horse, trying to find what works.
And that's the next part of it. In other words, when we come into trainer's mind and it doesn't work out, the next day we get in more trainer's mind and we go on a roller coaster where we forgot that every day we've got to set up the relationship and set up the timing and find out what kind of timing that horse needs to be able to follow our lead. But we've got to look for those things to be able to lead him. And another thing is that a horse can get into performance mind.
Yes.
So then we've got to work with that. We're in trainer's mind, horses in performance mind. What performance mind is, don't tell me what to do. I know what to do. And he didn't pay attention to the fact that you didn't ask him to perform. And now he's off. You're writing him and you're asking him to do a walk. He thinks you mean canter, whatever. But anyway, you just get off course. So it's really, really important to breathe.
Yes.
Get yourself in pause, get in neutral. Let's put him in halt. Let's get him so that both of you understand, I want you to halt. The horse says, I understand, I'm halting. And he waits to hear from you when you ask him to do something, whatever that something is. He is there present to it, and that you know what to ask him to do. So it's also being in a state of neutral, not wound up energetically, but coming from a very, very still place so that you can see the avenues of choices to take with the horse to bring that dance out in the horse.
Absolutely. And one of the things that just came to my mind that I think is really valuable, and it came up in our master class the other day with a student, is, just when we are in trainer's mind and we start to continue to work with the horse on the same thing to perfect it and to get it better, we're not looking for changing up the program, what's working for the horse, and not always requesting the same thing, that the horse starts to develop these patterns, which is why, like you said, they just start performing without us. So I think also a lot of that comes from being in trainer's mind.
Yeah, the thing that's really important when you're working with the horse is the horse doesn't understand what you might ask him to do next, because he may perform it out. He may perform something that you don't want him to perform because he thinks he has a list. He has a list. He says, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And don't talk to me about it. I know what to do. Yeah. And now both you and the horse are off the page. So how that happens is when we get into trainer's mind, we get so much into the performance, we forget that what we've got to keep on the horse, more important than the performance of the horse, is that the horse's main interest is following your lead. That's got to be more important than the performance. So he's got to follow your lead, and your job is to know that your leadership is going to come to him in a way that brings him to that consciousness.
Right. Changing it up and keeping it interested. So our horse is always asking, like, what do you want me to do now? What are you looking for now? And that keeps that engagement. I love that. And the focus in the horse, which is vital in performance. And especially when, like in your blog, you were talking about how the connection together with that is just magical.
And this is what, when I went back to see Chuck Grant, that was the one thing that I just absolutely admired about how he worked with horses. You never saw him in trainer's mind. He had a saying that he said years ago, ask often. What was it? Let me see if I can remember it. Ask often. Gee, I think I forgot it.
You told me and I can't remember either, but just so our viewers and our listeners know, Chuck Grant's the author of American Dressage and has 6 Grand Prix dressage horses. And he said that you had something called Equus Tact. And I just want you to talk for a second about why he said that. And I love that, Equus Tact, that term.
Well, that's all about understanding to stay out of trainer's mind. In other words, the horse is performing from his heart and his willingness to follow you. Then you pay no attention to what he is feeling at the moment in the request that you ask him. When Chuck went up to his horses, he was different than most trainers. And that was one of the reasons why I went back there, is I could see that he and I had a lot in common, in that his horses were very, very relaxed and could pick up things really quickly. And it was different. It wasn't like watching the way you see most horses perform. And I went back there. I had not seen him ride his horses in person or even in a video or anything. I had read his book, and I found in his book that was what I thought he had. He had pictures that I'd not seen in the video. So I went back there and found him like that. He's not going to get into that thing, that starkness to say, hold, do, perform, go.
Right.
Being that cold element. You don't want to be cold with an element. You want to be alive with the horse when you're communicating with them.
And the only way we can do that is through connection and spending a lot of time with our horses in neutral, which is what we teach in our program, so that students can remain in the relationship and put the performance second. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that when you talk about trainer's mind and you talk about finding the right approach so that we don't get into trainer's mind, talk a little bit, Carolyn, just about that, like the entry point of connection, which is why this guy said that you had Equus Tact, because you're always looking for that entry point of connection and what that horse will, when that horse will say yes.
Well, the most important thing that I know about the entry point of connection is when you first see your horse. When you first put the halter on the horse. Did the horse walk you to the gate? Did you walk the horse to the gate? If the horse walked you to the gate, guess what? You've lost your leadership position. You need to take your horse back where you put on the halter and say, are you listening to me? Can you walk with me? And there would be your entry point of connection, rather than letting him walk you to the gate taking him in to settle him up, ride him, and you haven't connected with him at all. You haven't even looked for the entry point of connection. So it's one of the things that's very important is when you go see your horse that you would stand with your horse watching him for a while so that he knows that you're present. That would be the very first thing that you would do. And each step, you're looking, what is my next entry point of connection? As a leader, when a horse is focused on me and when the horse is relaxed enough and has enough energy in him to be able to perform what it is that you ask from him.
And I absolutely, you know, I love that that we teach our students this concept, because what happens is, and you have to practice this to believe it probably, but it really does take years of training off the horse. So it speeds up the whole process because we are working with the connection, which then the horse in response says, yes, 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 I'll do anything for you. And that's what I love about not just the method, but about this concept, trainer's mind, and how to stay out of it. So is there anything else that you want to mention? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. The only thing I want to mention is when you go to your horse, always bring a new consciousness to your horse, a fresh approach. When you see him, every time when you go see him, say, I'm here today, how are you? Like maybe you've never seen the horse, but this is your first time you saw him. So I'm here. How do you feel? What kind of mood are you in? And from that, the conversation then starts in a harmonious way.
Absolutely. That's so valuable. Well, I'm so glad that we got to touch on this subject and that we can add this video podcast to this blog. And I hope everybody will read the blog because it's more detailed. But as always, Carolyn, it was amazing to talk to you about this subject. And I'm sure that everyone's going to get so much out of it. And all we want to do is stay in connection, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, talk to you soon.
Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.